Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this podcast, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I greatly appreciate it. We have Sally Forse on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Canada. We got another Canuck on the pod. It's like the 30th one. I mean, I had one on earlier this week. I have him on again. I love it. I mean, she hasn't said sorry yet though, so I'm a little bit disappointed in that though. I normally get that within like the first 2 seconds of talking to a Canadian, but hey, she's a figure athlete and a competitor as well as an aerial artist. And I mean, yeah, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey with us and discuss all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Sally, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I ask this to every guest to start out with, no matter how many times people say, oh, you just asked that. What's the weather like today?
Oh, as it's nice. A little cloudy, but it's warm. It's been cold. It's this time of year in Canada and Ontario, especially, right? It's been you never know what you're gonna get. The morning it's cold. By midday it's hot and sunny, and afternoon it's raining. You gotta dress for all kinds of things when you leave the house.
Oh, I believe me, I have experienced those 30 to 40 degree temperature changes within, a day. And it's, yeah, just that bipolar weather that we're getting around this time. But before we get too much into that, I mean, why don't you start off by giving us your backstory and how you became a bodybuilder, your aerial artist, and yeah, just your whole backstory.
Okay. Well, I do graphic design. I graduated from Sheridan College to do graphic design. So it started with the fact that I was at a desk job and I like to be active. I've kind of always liked to do active things, some gymnastics, some baton twirling, things like that when I was a kid, and a bit of high school, like running and doing fitness things then, but nothing too serious. And then I found myself at a desk job, hated that fact, and I don't like to sit still at all. So that didn't work for me. So I was desperately looking for something different, something exciting to, keep me in good shape. And I started with an adults gymnastics class, and that was fun to a point, but it just got very repetitive. It was less creative, and it was more just doing the same thing a million times until you perfect it. And I got some of the basic moves, and then it just got a little bit boring. So from there, I joined a circus school in Newmarket, and I went to an open house, and I just tried like two or three things, and that was it for me. I was hooked instantly. It was like upside down and backwards. Heck yeah, like I'm in all of it. So I did that for a number of years, and that was a lot of fun, and I was never bored. And your skill level just it improved. But if it didn't, it was okay. You could be creative, and it was always new and exciting. So from there, I was really tiny. Actually, I was always been very just small and light. And so it was good in one way, but then when I wanted to do more aerial things like the silks, I needed to climb and I needed strength. So I started working out for that purpose and found that I really actually enjoyed working out as well. And the weights, I liked the results. I liked to be stronger. I liked to be more capable of doing what I wanted to do. So the two really went hand in hand. So as I got better at working out, I got better at doing silks, and that helped. And then I found my body type. It's really hard to put on muscle. So I started going to Popeyes and got into using some proteins and supplements and things to help me. I'm a hard gainer, so I had to like eat a lot of things that like at one point I was eating like this mutant mass stuff, which is like tons of calories just to like put on like a shape somewhere. So I found the guy working there became a friend of mine, and he had trained people in the past for competition, and he saw my progress just in the gym and that I was changing my body and my strength, and he said, have you ever thought of competing? I was like, oh, me, no, sparkly suit on stage, that's not my thing, right? He's like, well, maybe you'll be interested. So he explained the process, and I said, well, yeah, let's try it. I've seen the competitions, and yeah, I'll go for it. Why not? So he trained me, and I went to my first competition, not 100% sure what to expect. And again, got out on stage, loved it. I was like, yes, heck yes, this is for me again. It was like, I'm in. Um, I love the experience. It helped that that show I won. I won my category and I won an overall. So that was a really good start. It gave me a good feeling right from the get go. And so from there, I just I kept going, and I got another trainer. Um, you've definitely heard of Mindy O'Brien. She's
Oh, I've been
absolutely
trying to get her on since day one. One of these days, I will get her on.
she's incredible, and she's always been an inspiration of mine. And I was on Team O'Brien for a while, and they have a really good thing going there. It's a great group of people to work with. Um, you make friends, and there are people that support each other. And she's an amazing trainer, and she's done it all. She's done uh, figure. She's done well fitness, of course, fitness, figure, physique, bikini. She's done and won everything. She's been to the Olympia, so that was an incredible experience. Then we moved. We moved from there, so the long distance was just a little too far. I know we can do virtual and things now, but at the time it didn't seem right. So I found a trainer closer to home, and I took 2 years off in between to have my second child. And then when I chose to go back to it, I found a trainer closer to home in London, which is an hour away from here. And it was just COVID was just hitting then, and we were doing virtual. We've been training together for 3 years now, and we've been doing off and on virtual and some personal. So when we can train together in person. The restrictions are lifted now, so things have been good. Um, and yeah, we've had a really good time. Yeah, Nick Twum, he's an amazing trainer, and he's helped me reach my goals, and really looking forward to see what we can create in the coming next competitions.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that I found so interesting about aerial artists is that if you look at most of them, they are in incredible shape. I mean, it's a job that you need to be in very good shape to have, and that background sort of help. But doing it now when you're in a sport that like requires you to put on size, does having all of that size affect your aerial artistry at all? Because when I look at a lot of them are a little bit on the slimmer side, but like they're very toned. But having more size, does that impact your aerial job at all, or artistry, I should say?
It definitely does. There's a point during off seasons, especially when it's a lot more hard work to haul heavy weight up there and try to do the same elegant moves with excess weight. And yeah, I'm not going to lie that it gets a little uncomfortable at that point. Um, Even something I posted a video on Instagram not too long ago. It was hilarious. I was doing like a drop where it ends up wrapped around your ankles. It slides down your leg and ends up on your ankles, but it got stuck on my calves. Like it wouldn't slide down, and it hurt quite a bit. I was like stuck there until my leg like goes through the silk. I'm like, okay, this is a good problem to have, but yeah, there's definitely sometimes drawbacks.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is also a sport where there's so many myths and misconceptions about bodybuilding when the general public hears about it. And then when you add the female aspect to it too, it just multiplies. But did you have any concerns or anything that you were thinking about maybe to convince you not to do the sport when you were getting started? Or was it one of those things where you just want to dive right in and see what happens?
No, I wanted to see what happens. See, my downfall at the beginning, some of my competitions, I think I was a little too eager. Even I would do like 5, 6 competitions in a year. And I've learned since then, I mean, you can do that, but you just wear your body down that way. And that was my doing. I wanted to. I was doing all the streams, and I was like, I'm doing like, yeah, whatever I could. I enjoyed it though. It was good. I got a lot of stage experience that way, so I think that's helped me learn everything I've done. I've learned from that. I can take it back down a notch. I can do 2 competitions a year and really focus on my off season, especially being a hard gainer. Now I can take the time I need to just put on the weight, lift the heavy stuff, and get to it and have the better result in the end.
How do you deal with the mental side of being a hard gainer as well? Because like this sport is hard enough as it is mentally because even if you are the biggest gainer of all time, it's still not a sport that like over weeks time you're not going to make any really significant changes. Like it's one of those where you're just in it for the long term, and a lot of people fall out of it in the beginning because they don't see those changes that they just magically think are going to happen overnight. But especially being a hard gainer, how do you deal with that mentally, knowing that like you're only going to be making incremental gains at a time?
Yeah. Well, I think because I literally started from nothing, every little added bump or inch of size somewhere I'm excited by. So I get to see the results happen. I think I've seen slow progress. And I've been really lucky. I haven't hit any kind of major plateaus. Things have just steadily been increasing. So I think because I don't flip flop a lot, like in the off season, I don't gain a huge excessive amount of weight, so that I don't have to constantly lean down, gain weight, lean down. It's a nice progression. So, and my coach helps me with that. He's been 100% um, important for helping me figure that out with the meal plan, with the weights, and when to kind of take it easy and when not to.
Oh, that's the hardest thing about the sport. It's just trial and error, basically figuring out the right nutrition, figuring out the right amount, the right amount of workouts, and it's just yeah that this whole lifestyle is really just, and that's what I mean. It takes time, and that's why when I talk to people, that usually the more years they're in this sport, the better off they are mentally, and the better off they are, obviously on the physical side. But I also love to talk genetics too, because you can train just like someone, you can eat just like them, and you're not going to look like them. And unfortunately, that's not the case. I could train and eat just like Jay Cutler, and I'm not going to look probably 1/10 of the way that he looks, unfortunately. But whenever someone first gets started too, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off, that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just drags behind it. They have to train to oblivion. What was one body part that took off for you, and one body part that really dragged behind when you were first getting started?
Well, I would say I started with literally nothing. Like I said, I was a stick. So everything, I had to work everything. I have built every piece of myself. But what took off faster, I would say, would be my upper body and my back due to the use of climbing. And just because I enjoy climbing, so I will use that without even realizing how much work I'm putting into it. So I think that's helped. My back is, I would say, my best feature. And something I've had to work on would be my glutes. My age, gravity, they're both fighting me. And I'm not going down without a fight. I'm still improving. And every time, every year it gets better. Every competition it gets better. So that would be something I focused on, and I know I've improved for this competition. So it's good.
And I mean, the nutrition side of the sport too. I mean, that's 90% of the sport really, where it's so much. And I mean, especially as a hard gainer, you probably have to eat a lot more. But what is your relationship like with the nutrition side of things? Because I mean, that is, to the outside person, that is one thing that they don't understand, is like how much food you really have to process if you're going to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah, yeah. That's eating enough in the off season, I think, would be my downfall. I love to eat. I love food, but the quantity, getting in that number of meals in a day, and you've got to fit it in. At the end of the day, if you've still got something left you haven't eaten, like even if you're not hungry, sometimes that's the part. Like I would feel like maybe I want to not eat, but it's for a purpose. So I just get it done.
How do you trick yourself into force feeding? Because that to me is like almost in, like for me, like once I'm full, like it's hard for me. But like, how do you do that? Because that to me is, that's a skill for me, at least.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to make it as appetizing as possible. Trying all kinds of different seasoning and spices and things that are good. So trying to make it taste good.
Oh yeah, I mean, I even heard stories about bodybuilders putting mustard on chicken and stuff like that, and it's like, well, I mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess, So, but you got to do what you got to do. But yeah,
But the types of food I would say are the kinds of food I like to eat anyways. Luckily, one of my favorite things is like avocados or spinach. And I was like, I eat lots of spinach. Luckily, I love it. So that just kind of works with me. So that's, yeah, for a while, I would say just before I got serious into competing, I was a vegetarian, not like super strict, but just not red meat vegetarian for about 15 years. And so I changed that because you can do it. I know lots of people do it, but it's that extra difficulty, and it has to be so calculated, and it's just, yeah. So now I just try to get meat sourced from better places. And I try to be a knowledgeable consumer versus, just not eating it at all.
Yeah, I've talked to like a dozen vegetarian bodybuilders, and I just even want to tell them, it's like, you're making this so much harder than it needs to be. Cause like they talk about what they go through, and it's like, this is already a hard enough lifestyle as it is. And you're just making it, even more. But hey, more power to them, but also more power to, I mean, I would never, if I'm not even a vegetarian in real life, and I would never as a body, I mean, that to me is just so hard. But again, props to the people that, are able to pull it off. But do you believe that background also in aerial artistry helped you with that confidence to walk on stage? Because like if you're doing stuff in front of a crowd of people in a circus, you would think that at least maybe a little of that would go to maybe some confidence to walking on stage, even though they are two different things when you're up top, like on a beam doing something as opposed to just posing in front of people.
No, definitely. When I step out on stage, it's almost like I'm not me. It's a performance of showcasing my work rather than just here's me. Hi, how you doing? It's my it's it you can definitely switch modes that way. It's more of a performance that way. I love the posing. I love the part where we get to do like a personal routine, like the little preview. And I also like the comparison round too, because that's also the part of the sport I feel where at the end of the day, like you've done all the work and you're just presenting it, but then there's that one aspect where you get to sort of actually compete against someone because they're right beside you and you can present yourself very well and you can look amazing. But the truth is, when they're standing next to you and you're being compared to someone else, and you can try to pose better or present it differently. There's a little bit of competition right there happening.
And I mean, I love to talk posing as well, because that is one thing that shocked me that I would have never guessed before I started this podcast is the hardest thing for so many of these guests. What is your relationship like with posing?
I like it. Yeah, I don't mind. It's there's some poses my least favorite, and some are my, some I prefer. I prefer the ones that showcase my best features. So the back pose is my favorite. I like the front relaxed pose. I find that such an elegant. I love to do that motion. I feel good doing it. So I feel that presents my physique well. And everyone looks fantastic doing that because that's the shape the trophy's in. You get to do that look. And yeah, so there's some I find the side poses quite awkward. I just find it is very unnatural to stand that way, and it takes a lot of work for me to get that one right. I have worked with posing coaches. Mindy's an amazing posing coach. I've worked with Fidel Clark for training. I do virtual. I've been doing virtual sessions with him last year for through all through COVID, just to, when I switched from regional to national level, it's a slightly different style of posing. Well, maybe not style, but they're definitely expecting you to be better.
I mean, yeah, posing is just its whole conundrum. I mean, most people don't understand that the body's not meant to be in that pose for a long period of time. And then you see some of these competitors on stage doing for minutes at a time, just holding the pose, and you're just like, oh god. But when it comes down to show day as well, what is your favorite part about show day, and what is your least favorite part about show day?
I'd say the presentation round, the first walkout where you get to like introduce yourself. You see the crowd, you see the judges, and you get to present yourself. And you're like, "Help! Here I am." And the least favorite, probably the waiting to get to that part. I get nervous backstage. Try not to look around and see, oh, that person's bigger, or that person's better, or that, just try to stay focused and just, I can only be me. This is me on this day, and that's what I got. I'm going to go out there and just show it off.
That's one thing that I think needs to be broadcast more to people who might be coming to these shows, is how long they take. And that is, one of the top answers that I get for like what the least favorite thing for show days. Like, yeah, people don't understand. Sometimes you're going to be there like 12, 14 hours at the minimum for some of these people. So it's, ugh, yeah, they got to find a way to speed it up or do something because
They have done. I mean, I really like the changes they've made in the CPA here. Anyways, for the COVID situation, they've cut down a lot of the process, and things are a lot quicker. And I find it runs a lot smoother. It's better for me personally. So it's got to be better for the judges. They have such a long day, and the organizers and the people at the stage presenters and everyone from top to bottom, whatever you're doing involved with the show, it's smoother. I like it anyways. I hope they keep that format because they cut it down from you go out and present and then you go for like there's the prejudging and then there's the finals and then it's nice to have that final presentation in a show format as well too, but at the end of the day it makes it really long.
Well, yeah, and I've always thought about, like, if you are going into, like, that 12th or whatever hour as a judge too, like, you could easily miss some stuff that might mean the difference between a win and a loss for some of these people on stage. So, yeah, obviously, yeah, shorting things out, that's much, much better also for the judges as well as the competitors because, yeah, if you're trying to focus on something for, a very long period of time, it's just human nature to sort of, the mind might wander a little bit. So, yeah,
And
that
I
is.
find it more interested. They're getting bigger. The shows are getting bigger. There's more competitors, so there's just more people to just come off and on the stage. Just simply step out there, do their thing, and leave takes the time. So
Oh yeah, especially the bikini rounds. Like I've talked to people where like they do like there's like 10 rounds of like bikini bears, and you're just like, okay, this is taking up a huge chunk of the time too. But when you're on that stage, what is that feeling like for you, knowing that like you put in all this hard work on a prep, and preps are never easy. I don't care what anyone says. And when you're finally able to walk on that stage and show off all that hard work, what is that moment like for you?
it's amazing and nerve wracking at the same time. I love it and hate it. It really is good though. I like it and it's closure. What I found that through COVID, there was one competition I was prepping for nationals, and it was 3 days before the show. It was canceled, and there wasn't to be another one until the next year. So that was a year of prep, and everyone going to the show would have been the same. A year of prep for the show canceled, and there wasn't another opportunity. So then it was rough. That was like, oh wow, I'd not felt that before. That lack of closure to the process. So I've had a tough personal time. These last couple of months have been pretty hard. This has been one of my hardest preps, not physically, not mentally, just emotionally, personally. My personal life got a little crazy and busy, but I had some setbacks. I almost wasn't going to do this show next weekend. But when it came time to prep, I was only a week or two in, and I was thinking, I don't know. My next opportunity is the fall. What's going to happen between now and fall? It could be worse. So thankfully, I made the decision right then and there. I'm like, you know what? I'm taking this opportunity and I'm going to make the most of it. And the rest of prep has been amazing. So I'm really glad I did because I'm presenting the best package I've had yet. And I could have missed that opportunity. So I'm like, I've got to start doing that more often. Just say yes and go with it.
Well, I mean, you presented perfectly the mentality of bodybuilders, where it's like you develop such a mental strength from doing this sport. What has that been like for you, just developing this mental strength? Because I always say that, people just notice the physical side of, being a bodybuilder. We're like, oh my God, you look amazing. But they don't notice the mental change as well. And that mental transformation is 1,000 times more important than any physical change. And what has this whole journey been like for you mentally?
It, it's good. It does teach you a lot. And even just in your life to help keep things organized. I find the gym is a lot of times like a kind of therapy because things can be falling apart and I'll go to the gym and feel better. Things can be great. I'll go to the gym and feel better. And it's like, no matter what's going on, I can go to the gym. It could be a good workout, it could be a bad workout, but I do always feel better for going. And I find it gives me something to look forward to. It gives me a structure, even when some things can be falling apart. Well, at least I ate my meals today. I had this success. I lifted the heaviest ever. If I'm angry, take it out on the weights. If I'm happy, take it out, have fun with the weights. It's just, it helps really keep things level for me.
Yeah, people just don't understand. Yeah, that release that working out is for a lot of these compares that come on. Yeah, like for me too. Yeah, that's my therapy time as well. Where I can finally reflect and get through all my, and it's my alone time too. And so yeah, it's a big help for me as well. But back to competitions. Now we go to my favorite question. What is your go-to post-show meal?
Oh, show meal. Oh, probably anything with pasta. Um, I also could destroy a sushi restaurant. I love sushi. So yeah, probably sushi or pasta. Ideally, pasta with seafood. And
I had sushi once in my life, and I did not enjoy it. So I'm one of those people. For me, it's got to be cooked. Like it's got to be like I don't know. I figured that's what it was because
if you've only had it once, it might not have been the best sushi.
well, that too. But like so I like chicken a lot, and my friend was like, "Well, we'll just try tuna then." And I tried tuna, and I absolutely hate it. And I tried some other sushi as well, and it was, ugh, yeah, I did not. I mean, I'm a very picky eater too as well, so that's just a whole different part of it too as well. But yeah, just that post show meal, I wish for once I could feel what that must feel like to finally eat something something after spending months just on that diet. That must be a great feeling. But I mean, I love to talk also. We talked a little bit about it, but I mean, post show blues is such an important part of this sport that isn't talked about as much as it really should be because a lot of people just don't understand that look that you present on stage, it's not sustainable 24/7. And a lot of times people get into the sport sometimes not knowing that, and then it just comes to a shock to them when they get into their first show. But what was that like for you when you first realized that, like, hey, I am gonna have to put on weight no matter how hard I worked for this look? And has it gotten easier for you to accept that as your career in the sport has gone on?
I'd like to say yes. I still have my moments. Mid off season, deep in off season, can it hits me when I'm unprepared and I'm
Do you still
suddenly
do posing during the off season? Because that for a lot of people is like that's the thing that really just breaks them if they have to see their off season body doing poses in a mirror.
yeah, not in the suit of it, like
Oh, hopefully not in the suit. Yeah, that would be just depressing for me.
that's fun. No, that not in anything like that. I do practice lightly, but no, I'm okay with most of it. It just, yeah, it gets a tipping point where, especially when I'm trying to gain size. So it can get like all of my clothes stop fitting, like just that's okay. It's temporary. Buy a larger size.
Well, being a hard gainer too, what tips do you have for other people that are also hard gainers? Is there anything that you do specifically that you think works best for yourself as a hard gainer?
Well, what works for me might not
Oh
necessarily
yeah, that's true. That's true.
work,
I mean, but there's
but
always that 1 in 100 chance.
I found I lifting heavier. I kind of shied away from in the past. Maybe I didn't have the technique. It's taken years for me to feel comfortable, and a trainer that also knows what he's doing to show me. And no matter how many times I do the move, I know how to do the move. I still appreciate having someone there to tell me if I am not doing it correctly. I can look in the mirror and I can feel it now, and I'm getting better for sure. But having the confidence in my trainer that he knows what he's doing, and that then that helps me go for it. And he knows when to back off. When if the weight's not happening properly, don't push it. Don't hurt yourself. He always takes my health at the first and foremost is my health because I'm in this for the long term. Like this is something I want to do for a long time. I'm not young, so I want to keep doing this. I'm an older mom, so I enjoy the benefits of being healthier, not breaking myself down, not wearing down my joints, and not causing future problems. So
Well, and one of the things that I personally struggled with in my own athletic journey was knowing the difference between pain and injury, and that led to some bad results for me. And have you ever struggled with that as a bodybuilder? Because I mean, lifting some of those weights, even I've had times too where I was like, "Oh, am I hurt or am I just really, really sore?"
yeah, I have an uncanny ability to hurt myself doing like the silliest thing, not when you'd expect like you're lifting something really heavy. Like I slightly tore like very lightly like strained my quad muscle doing a stationary lunge. And that's like it wasn't heavy, it was with dumbbells. It wasn't like I wasn't out of position. It was the strangest thing. And I don't know if I lost concentration for a moment and overstretched or something. But another time I'll twist my ankle. I stepped on a pine cone, twisted my ankle. So it's like, meanwhile, then I'll go and pick up like 300 pounds deadlift, and it's like I'm okay. I take the precautions. I wear the belt when I need to. I check my form, and all things said, and like
That pine cone just had it out for you. Let's just be completely honest.
evil. A
Yeah,
pine cone.
absolutely. And I mean, being a mom, being a bodybuilder, aerial artist, having a job too as well. I mean, even having two of those four things would drive a person crazy. What is your time management like that you're able to function as a human being doing all those things?
Sometimes I wonder myself. I don't know. So people have asked me, how do you get it all done? I'm like, well, I don't. I think I am juggling too many balls, and randomly I drop the ball somewhere. And right now I'm in prep, so my house is a mess, and that's okay. That's temporary. So I kind of focus on what's important at the time being. So
Do the kids know that like mom might get a little cranky now that she's on prep, so just kind of try to get on her good side?
no, I'm never cranky. Yeah, I no, my kids are awesome. They totally support what I do. They love watching on stage. They watch some of the shows that I watch, other competitions, and they'll watch it with me because I'm getting experience of looking, seeing what's doing well currently, and how the judging is going. So they'll watch it with me, and they enjoy trying to decipher the method of judging and who might win. And they're like, oh, this person, they start learning things. They're like, oh, that person has wide lats and that person has calves, and they start figuring it all out. So and they're my biggest fans. I'll be looking at a picture of someone else. I'd be like, oh, look at, she's really strong, and they'll say, you could beat her mom. Like, no matter who it could be, like, a total, like, huge bodybuilding woman that
Andrea Shaw, they'd be like, yeah, you can beat Andrea Shaw. No way.
exactly. So in their mind, I could, which is it's amazing. So
Oh,
they're
that
my
is
big.
that is so great. I mean, that support system is by far the biggest uplift for a lot of these guests I have. Because then I talk to people that don't have that family support, and it just makes it so much harder. So yeah, that support is just so important. But I mean, let's be honest, you're not the average looking woman. If you were to walk out in public dressed the way you are right now, you might get stares, and just because it's human nature when you see something that's out of the normal, to just be like, oh wow, that's interesting. What has that been like, and has it gotten easier for you to accept the fact that you're gonna draw more people's attention, or is it still one of those things where you're like, okay, this is a little weird?
I think it's funny. My kids' friends, they'll be like, "Oh, isn't that your mom? She's strong," and they appreciate it too. So I've had mostly positive. I've not had a lot of people say negative things. Um, I've had people that don't understand what I do, and they feel like like I'm like more self-centered, and they don't want anything to do with it. And that's maybe been a drawback, but they've not said anything about visually how I look. There's been a few off comments on social media, but it's nothing. The people will say bad things about anything.
Oh my god, I get hate stuff all the time too, and it's like I don't even compete. I just do a podcast that has bodybuilders and health and fitness people on. So yeah, that's I mean yeah, that just comes with the territory. But I mean yeah, it's just I always just find it fascinating, especially when I was in better shape, at least in college, that I would still get some people's attention too, and you're just like I'm just a normal person, just like everyone else. But it's just yeah, just people being curious. But I hate cardio more than life itself. I've said this. I'll say this till the day I die on every podcast that I do. I mean, I love to walk, and because walking is not cardio to me. I don't care what anyone says. Running, yeah, but running, you'll never see me in a million years. What is your relationship like with cardio? Because when you become a bodybuilder, unfortunately, you sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio.
Yes, yes. I don't love cardio. It's not the effort. It's easy enough to do, but it's mind-numbingly boring. And when I'm busy, which is all the time, I have a chaotic life. So to just be on a treadmill or something, my mind is always going to the other things I could be doing with that time. And although I know it's a necessary step, running, I love to run, but like throw in some obstacles or something fun to do. Like I really love to do those obstacle races, like the like Warrior Dash and things like that. So those are great. I can run 5, 10K if there's some fun things to do in between. But just straight out running, it's not really for me either.
I mean, I can guarantee you that when I go on my walk tonight, I will be thinking to myself, I could be editing so and so's podcast right now. I could be doing that. I have that same stuff too. I'm going to the Twins game tomorrow to celebrate my older brother's 30th birthday, and I can guarantee you, even though I'll be having fun there, in the back of my mind, I'll still be like, I could be getting all this work done in this time and stuff like that. So that's a it's a blessing and a curse when I started this podcast. The curse is that, there's always something that you can work on and there's always something that you can get done. And the blessing is that, you get to talk to people, share their journeys. But yeah, it's just like with cardio as well too. Yeah. If I got all my podcast stuff done, then I'm worrying about other things. And it's so mind-numbingly dumb. Even if I have my music in, it's still to this day. But I mean, sleep is the most important part of this lifestyle. I don't care what anyone says. If you disagree with me on that, pull an all-nighter and then tell me how that worked out for you working out the next day. What is your relationship with sleep like? Because, I mean, as you get closer and closer to a show, a lot of people don't understand the leaner you get, the harder it is for some of these people to fall asleep.
I sleep no problem because I don't get enough in general. So when I do, I am out, and like I do not want to wake up, but I do. I have to. So, um, kids, school, job, all of that. Uh, the lifestyle. I have to prep things at night, prepping food and getting that last meal, and all of this has to happen after family life. So knowing I've got to get up for cardio, there's some times that are worse, but for the most part, yeah, I'm not getting enough sleep. And so when I do get a chance, I fall asleep. I fall asleep in the car, planes, trains, automobiles, doesn't matter. Like if I'm paused, I'll fall asleep because
I have never been able to fall asleep in any automobile, plane, or anything like that. No matter how hard I try, I'm just one of those people where I cannot do it. So are you just like a caffeine addict, basically?
no, not too bad.
Oh, yeah.
No, I have to have one or two coffees in a day. There was a time I drank a lot more, but it doesn't do good for things for me. I just get way too wired, and it doesn't help me deal with the day. It does keep me awake, but it doesn't make me function better. So I find like I definitely had to cut back on caffeine.
Well, as you can tell, I'm hyper enough as it is. So if I take any sip of coffee, my head will probably explode. So, for the safety of the public, I choose not to do that, personally. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, like, hey, I'm really thinking about, either just getting in shape or giving bodybuilding a try or just anything really related to, getting started in a fitness journey, what's the best piece of advice that you would give them?
Mm. Well, yeah, if they're interested, go find out more information about it and watch a show, go to a show and see what it's all about. Talk to some other people, what their experiences were. But if they've already kind of made up their mind to do it, then go for it and enjoy it. Try to enjoy it, and try not to take it too seriously unless you're planning on making this a career. Everyone has different goals, but if you just want to experience it, go try it, do it, try to enjoy it. It's going to be hard, and just accept that.
That needs to be emphasized even more when you're telling people like how hard it's going to be, because I think a lot of people go into this with this sort of view of it as, oh, you just work out and then you just eat clean and then it's everything good. No, you are crying on the treadmill at times. You are just wondering, you're getting 2 hours of sleep sometimes and you're just like, why am I doing this? Why? It's a lot of self-doubt. And that's a question that I just started recently asking. Even I have that question as I talk to some of these guests, like, why do they do this? Why do they do this to themselves? What is the motivation? And even these guests, I mean, I can bet you even at times have asked yourself, like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I So when you hear that question, when people ask you, like, why do you do this? How do you like to respond to that?
I have a longer list of why not. Like, why wouldn't you? So like I definitely get to that place sometimes where I'm like, man, why am I doing this? And then you just think of, well, why not? Well, there's all of these great reasons why. So you can't counter that with you just don't wanna, or it's hard, or that I haven't found a good enough reason not to.
That's true. I mean, I don't know if I got a big Five Guys burger in front of me, I might be like, okay, yeah, that's good enough for me. We'll put a break on that. So again, that's why that to me, the sport of bodybuilding, the most impressive part is just the mental side of it, where you have to go through, and it really just a lot of times it changes you as a person, where it just makes you so much more mentally strong and mentally, you know, more just solid. And I mean, when we do talk to you a year from today, where would you like to be at? Because I'd like to have you on a year just to check in. Where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding? Where would you like to just be at in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
Boy, I'm focusing on next week. Next week I have the nationals, and then from there, yeah, ideally I would win then. But I just continual improvement. I haven't hit a plateau yet, so every time I'm on stage, I am bringing something better. So I just hope to be able to continue to do that. I hope to be in good health. I hope to be managing, balancing my family, my job as best I can. As if it's as I'm doing now, that's great. And I just hope to be able to continue to do this. So no injury or illness and things like that would be wonderful.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed on that as well. And now we go to the golden question that I always like to ask you at the end. If someone were to also walk up to you and say, "We made the decision. You can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it," what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Oh, gee, that's a tough one. What would I change?
I can give you
Maybe
mine while
just
you think.
sure, yeah,
Well, obviously pay. I mean, that's not even I mean, it's like for me, it's like if you're a pro in the sport, first of all, you should never even have to have a day job really basically, but obviously like people do not understand like this is not a sport that you're going to go in to make money unless you win like the Olympia basically. So that's another big thing for me too is like these people do this and they don't even make money most of the time or even the money that they do make is so minimal that it just adds even more like to the just like how inspiring it is to see people put themselves through this much for so little, at least monetary rewards. But it's again, that's not the aspect of the sport really. It's just the self improvement and seeing yourself on stage. But also for me too, judging where it's like you might go to one show and they might want you a little bit more of a leaner look, and then you might go to another show and they want you a little bit more of a fuller look, just to have more of just a this is exactly what we want throughout every show, like no matter what. So like, because I've had people that they compete in shows and back to back, 2 weeks apiece, and they got completely different placings, even though they presented the same package and the same people that competed with them. So because other people have been like, well, maybe they compete with different people. It's like sometimes it's just with judging too, just to make it a little bit more even, where everyone's looking for the same thing.
true. Yeah, that would be great too. But I know sometimes with the new divisions, however they change, I've seen an evolution of the judging happen where it started out looking a certain way and then they gradually moved towards another look that was definitely more defined and better. So it can change for the better too that way. Um, I guess maybe I would think bodybuilding seems to be people don't talk enough about it even amongst each other, like unless you're really buddy buddy with some people like in general, so not a lot of people understand it or want to share information. There's a lot of people that have valuable information that if they could share with others more openly, I think that would be beneficial. Share with people that don't compete, just so they have a better understanding of things. Maybe I don't know. The sharing of information would be great.
Oh yeah, and more exposure as well. I mean, they used to have it on ESPN back in the day, and now they have, like I always say, they have cornhole on, and that's a sport that you play when you're drunk on Memorial Day. Like I'll probably be this weekend playing in my backyard, but still, I mean, it's like that's not a sport. You should rather, I mean, I mean, yeah, it just needs more exposure as a sport, really. And I think it is getting better slowly, but it's like you'd wish that it would speed up about a couple decades worth of the pace that it's at right now. But yep, so yeah, I don't.
Yeah, people they don't even know about the competitions that are happening. I think like even local gyms could be more involved promoting them a little more, or maybe, or promoting athletes that go to these events. So if you're not already in the industry, if you've not already found your way there to find the information yourself, where do you hear about it? So I found out from a friend that had trained people before. So I had to find out that way. I'd seen on TV the fitness competitions, and I always enjoyed watching that. But I don't think they do those anymore.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, if I wasn't working out religiously in college, I would have never ran into like the regulars in the gym and been like, because like it got to a point where I was like, you guys are so big, like what keeps you going doing this? And then I realized, oh yeah, they're bodybuilders, because I was like, yeah, if you weren't a bodybuilder and you're that big, it's like, what's the point? What's the point really? But like, yeah, so that's what really got me into it. So yeah, you really have to dig deep to really discover this lifestyle, which is something that I think is so unfortunate. So yeah, even if one extra person every podcast that I do, becomes more informed about this, the better for me. But again, Sally, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your journey with us. And before we wrap things up, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh, my coach Nick Twum, my husband, for all the support that he gives me through all of this journey. He's been there through it all, and he helps me with meal prep and things like that, and puts up with me. So
I've always said the significant others are the unsung heroes of this podcast because they have to deal with, all the stuff. I mean, they're, especially as you get closer to prep, they're responsible for so many things. So they are always, yeah, I always, they have a special place on this podcast, at least because, yeah, they do so much of the grunt work that isn't really talked about. But yeah, and I mean, Sally, thank you again, and everyone, go and follow our Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below. Buyer beware. You will get inspired to get in shape and get off that couch. Stop eating all those Twinkies. But again, Sally, I cannot thank you again. It was an absolute delight to talk to you and have you on.
Thank you for having me. It was
All
a
right.
lot of fun.
I appreciate that. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.